Hello, welcome to Color Score's latest episode. This is, of course, I said Killer Score. This, of course, is the podcast where we look at cult classic films with awesome soundtracks we believe deserve a bit more attention, talk about the film and the composer, of course. And we have finally reached our first guest episode with my buddy Russell, so I'll pass it off to him to introduce himself and what he's all about, and we'll pass it down the line.
Hello. Color Score listeners.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna rebrand. Turns out Killer isn't gonna show up in the algorithm.
We've
as
been
much.
demonetized.
Yeah.
We're using Killer.
I've been friends with Daulton for a long time. Too long, some would say.
Yeah.
I listened to the podcast and I figured, hey, I'm gonna get on that and I'm gonna ruin it. So, unfortunately, I'm gonna watch something I want to watch.
Well, this is a professional start, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hi, Erin here from witchingcrafts.com, facebook.com/witchingcrafts. You know the spiel.
Richard Eckert, Richard's Rad Voices. Find all of my stuff on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at Richard F. Eckert, etc., etc. And Russ, welcome, my friend, to the chaos.
Oh boy.
You got anything to plug?
Yeah. I do a live stream Dungeons and Dragons show every Tuesday night on Twitch at twitch.tv/Proficiency Bonus. We have two separate campaigns. We have sort of a normal D&D one, and then we have a pirate-themed one set in the same universe, and I play on both. So if you're not doing anything at 7 p.m. on Tuesdays, come check us out.
Cool.
Cool.
Nice.
All right, so for our first guest episode, we always decide on this podcast if we were going to do guest episodes. We either wanted to show our guest a film they haven't seen, usually to get around like showing awesome cult classic films the three of us have already seen. We still need to get somebody on to show them Highlander, so I can not shut up about Highlander for a bit.
Oh my god.
But
And me.
yes, you too. And Erin will be like, I still don't understand why you two love this movie so much. I've seen it, but I don't get it. And yeah, this time, though, Russ brought in a film that I don't think any of... Rich, have you seen it?
Not enough to say I've seen the whole thing, and it's been so long.
Yeah, this is one of the few versions of Phantom I'm not familiar with. Longtime listeners will know that we saw even Phantom of the Paradise, which, of course, is the 1970s disco-themed version of Phantom, which is awesome. Got a great score by Paul Williams from Muppets movie.
Check out our coverage of that on Killer Score Episode 3.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. It was one of the group's favorite episodes we did too. We really enjoyed watching that one. And this time around, we're bringing it back to Phantom. Consider it a little prelude to October when we do all horror stuff. Russ, you want to tell us about what you brought in for us in this movie?
Yeah, so I brought one of the lesser-known versions of Phantom. It's the Phantom of the Opera from 1943, starring Nelson Eddy, Susanna Foster, and Claude Rains. It was Universal's big attempt to okay, the original Phantom of the Opera was great for us in 1925, but that was silent. It's now 1923, and we have color and sound, so we want to make a big spectacle movie, and boy did they make a big, colorful movie with a lot of people in it. Now, I will say, if you're looking for a faithful adaptation of the story of Phantom, this is not it.
It's Universal.
Yeah.
To be expected.
Is there any version of Phantom you could say, oh yeah, that's really close to the book? I mean,
generally the 1925 Chaney Phantom is considered the closest, but even then
the climax is just the goofiest
yeah,
thing
even
ever.
that not close. But I'm also a believer that the novel is what it is, and it's also even though I'm a huge fan, but the novel is not a very well written book. So Phantom has survived so long because it's had adaptations that were better.
Yeah.
So
because the thing with the original story is it's meant to be read in a serialized format, so when it gets put into a novel, it loses a lot of the punch because the film is because the book was written for a magazine. Actually, it was like split into like sections. Yeah,
and it also like it tries to really be a mystery novel, and all it does is like bring up a bunch of questions that then it never answers. But this version is one that I've watched since I was little, and I really enjoy it because Claude Rains, partially because of this movie, but most famously Claude Rains nowadays is probably known as he was the Invisible Man.
Yeah.
He's also in Casablanca and Lawrence of Arabia. A wonderful actor, like one of my favorite actors, and also probably like the coolest voice in all of Hollywood.
A great voice.
But he gives a spectacular performance in this movie, even though he's not in it a lot. That's why he actually gets third billing, because he's not in it quite as much. In fact, I was saying to Daulton in the car right over, the biggest critique of this movie was famously too much opera, not enough Phantom. But they tried to go out with an all-out spectacle, and even actually reusing the original Opera House set that was built for the Chaney Phantom, which was like still standing and was standing until like 2013. It was like the oldest.
I remember.
Yeah,
that.
they finally decided to take it down.
That was a big controversy.
Yeah, and now I think it's just like they took it down. It's in storage somewhere. They didn't just like throw it in the trash.
Oh, that's good.
But
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this was sort of their big attempt at a big spectacle that it got, moderate success, but it wasn't like huge. And the trouble was like the script went through a lot of rewrites, and the final version doesn't super place together. Like there was a major plot point that they cut out sort of at the last minute, which I'll tell you guys like after we watch it, because I figured you'd go in without the knowledge, which I think I use as headcanon, which makes the film better for me.
We also gotta timestamp that for spoilers when we get to that, so that was a wise decision on your end.
Yeah.
So who's the composer for this one?
The composer is a man named Edward Ward, who, unfortunately, there's not a lot of information on him. Like, if you go to his Wikipedia page, it's just like, Edward Ward was a composer, and he did these movies. He was most active in, his, like, earliest IMDb credit is, like, 1930, all the way up until, like, 49, as, like, sole composer. And then he did, like, sort of random stuff. He was basically, like, an in-house Universal composer that they were just, like... He was assigned, assigned a job. You're on this film. Do this film.
Do this score.
And the interesting thing with this film score is that a lot of it is fresh scores, including like the main title. But because there's a lot of opera in this, what's interesting about this film is because it was when it was filmed, it was like right in the middle of World War II. So like, getting rights to operas was very difficult at the time. So, and also they were like,
are they dead or not right now?
That, or like, a lot of operas are owned were German operas. So there was also like the American thing of
Italian.
there was the American thing of like, we don't want to pay the Germans any money. So the first opera they do, like Martha, was in the public domain, so they do that. But later on, most of the operas are classical music that were in the public domain that they then like wrote opera lyrics for.
Oh my god!
So,
oh my god, they pulled a Mickey Mouse Three Musketeers.
Yeah, but you wouldn't know from watching the film that like they're not real operas.
Oh,
Okay.
Interesting. So
are we gonna hear like Mozart's Requiem?
No, it doesn't get... I will say there's nothing, like, overtly noticeable. And in my notes for later, I have some of, like, this is what they used and this is what they wrote. But it's not... And it does a wonderful job, especially, like, towards the climax of matching the sort of, like, music of the opera that's happening to the events happening in the plot as well, which is really well done.
It's rare you get that sort of on-the-fly composition work and have it done so well, from what you're telling us.
Yeah, because the only thing I can think of where, like, in more recent films is, like, using that kind of format would either be, like, Bob Fosse's Cabaret, where, as we've seen, it shows, like, it juxtaposes what's going on in the plot, or in Edgar Wright movies where they film around the music.
Yeah.
Yeah, film, edit, etc.
Yeah.
Also, Cabaret just so happens to be another one.
That we just did.
Yep. Plug, wink.
Plug, wink. Don't yell at us.
So, yeah, this is definitely the version I feel like people are the least familiar with, so this will be interesting to look at it. I also wouldn't be surprised if Universal did this, because, like, this is at the time when they were really pushing the Universal monster stuff. Like, they started doing crossover movies and stuff like that around this time.
This was actually originally planned to be Abbott and Costello meet the Phantom of the Opera. And they were going to get Lon Chaney Jr., and then, like, it quickly just, like, didn't work. Like, this movie has some weird comedy elements in it. Like,
wait, what?
There's a weird trio of, essentially, not to give too much, but, like, there's two Raouls in this movie, basically, and there's, like, weird, like, love triangle comedy, which is funny. Yeah, it's a movie that's all over the place, but I think, like, has an interesting heart.
Is this Phantom or Some Like It Hot?
I love you, Raoul, and you, Raoul, too.
Yeah, it's sort of like there's Raoul. There is a Raoul, except in this one he's a police inspector, and then there's Anatole Garon, who is, like, the big, like, baritone for the theater. So, like, Christine is between, like, this police inspector from her past and, like, Anatole Garon, the baritone of the opera. So, like, having a normal life and having, like, a theatrical life, and then it's just like it's just like Anatole and Raoul, like, butting heads over Christine's favor in weird, like, 1940s comedy.
Yeah, that's wild, because, like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they were like, okay, Boris Karloff, we're using him in everything. He's a hot commodity. We can't do another Frankenstein movie. Bela Lugosi's, like, all fucked up on drugs. Yeah. And he's also in a bunch of movies that we're doing. We're doing a Wolfman thing soon. What else do we own? We got the Phantom. Yeah, true. I don't think we could. And this was pre-Creature of the Black Lagoon, right?
Yes, because Creature of the Black Lagoon was 50 something. So yeah.
Yeah, and they hadn't come up with a sea monster yet, so they were like, "Oh man, I would have loved to see Abbott and Costello meet the creature from the Black Lagoon."
Yeah, and they sort of were like, again, like, it gets lumped in with the like the Universal horror movies. It's certainly, like, the least horror movie of all of them. It's really not a horror movie, to the point where, like, Claude Rains, when he agreed to take the role, he was like, I'll do it, but, like, I want very minimal makeup. Like, I don't want to be, because he was like, I already got a lot of fame from The Invisible Man. I don't want to be, like, typecast in, like, these horror roles. So Jack Pierce, the famous makeup artist, was like, I'll do that. We'll do it really minimal. And in fact, like, throughout the production, they kept doing, like, makeup designs, and Claude Rains kept being like, no, it's, like, it has to be smaller. It has to be smaller. Like, so.
It's like, God fucking damn it, Claude. I mean, I get it. He probably didn't want to be a Lon Chaney type, where it's like, you're a famous actor, but nobody knows what you look like.
Yeah. People want their faces out there. Same. And then sometimes, though, even that's a bad thing, because you have what Bela Lugosi went through. Yeah. Until Ed Wood tried valiantly and failed to put him back into movies.
Yeah, because Bela Lugosi wanted to do, like, you know, a lot of other roles, and he actually started out, like, on the Hungarian stage as, like, leading man, like, handsome guy roles, and he wanted to branch out into stuff, and he
wanted to play heroic characters.
Yeah, he kept trying, and people would be like,
it's Dracula.
No, Dracula. Do the Dracula thing. Put on a cape. like, they didn't want to see him as other things. So Claude Rains was very much like and he had a very a career of all. He was a character actor, but played things all over the place, and that's because he was very particular about doing what he wanted to do, but also like being careful in what he picked.
Yeah.
And also, fun fact for anybody who, if they enjoy this version or might want to check out, they did, because this was the 1940s. They did a radio drama version of this same film that has like most of the main cast. It has all the singing and stuff, except Claude Rains was like unavailable, so they got Basil Rathbone to play the Phantom.
Oh, that's awesome!
I love
So
that.
it's sort of a very similar script, and it's weird because they have similar voices. So like, but it's an interesting take. I think Claude Rains plays the Phantom much more like sympathetic and sort of like sweeter, and Basil Rathbone is essentially just like, he's a bit of a sad sap in the beginning, and then when he becomes the Phantom, he's like, he goes full on like villain. So that's like it's an interesting take to see the and it was like hosted by Cecil B. DeMille, so it's like the Cecil B. DeMille like radio show, so it's interesting. Yeah.
That's really cool. So let's see. We probably should get into the screening soon. You got anything else you want to bring up for the viewers before we get into our screening?
I guess the only thing is, if you're gonna watch it, like, I think go in more with like not expecting like the Phantom of the Opera. Expect like a sort of more a different take on it. And I think this movie's strong suit is its acting performances, its singing, and sort of its spectacle. So like, the plot may not be the greatest, but it does have like, and first of all, it is also like that early Technicolor where everything looks like really pretty and romantic.
Yeah.
So it's very like an aesthetically pleasing movie. Yeah. It's very like aesthetically pleasing movie.
Yeah, I love that early Technicolor stuff. All right, so let's get into our screening of this version of A Phantom of the Opera.
And welcome back to the colored score, or whatever Daulton said earlier. We have.
Don't say that.
No, wait, never mind.
Killer score.
Yeah, killer score. Welcome back to Killer Score. We have since now viewed 1943's The Phantom of the Opera, starring Nelson Eddy, Susanna Foster, and Claude Rains, with Edgar Barrier. That's from the radio version. They say that over and over again, so that's where I'm getting that from. Yeah. It's a movie I've seen a lot, so it was in fact the same movie, as always. And the things that I enjoy, I always still enjoy, and I always find like new stuff to enjoy. Specifically, like, there's a lot of background stuff going on in some of the scenes, and we were sort of noticing stuff like that. But other than that, I think the things that still hold up, and it's, you know, it's obviously not like a perfect film, but it's enjoyable.
Yeah, of like the Phantom adaptations I've seen, I actually I was surprised how much I appreciate this one, because this has always kind of been like, I feel like this always gets like a reputation from what little I've heard of it as kind of the black sheep of the Phantom adaptations. I mean, that and like the film version of the musical, which
Joel Schumacher.
Yeah. Joel Schumacher, fantastic filmmaker, overshadowed by a few bad movies.
Yeah.
He's like one of those guys that's like banger after banger after banger, puts out a few bad movies, and that's all anyone ever talks about.
No one ever talks about Falling Down or The Lost Boys.
And I will say that the film version of like the musical, as a film, is not bad. It was like mainly the casting of Gerard Butler that was the issue with that movie.
Yeah. That and like the unnecessary sword fight, like
unnecessary sword fight, and the fact that like the Phantom's makeup is so inconsistent.
Oh yeah.
That by the end of the movie, it sort of just looks like he has like an allergic reaction to a bee sting.
But no, I really enjoyed a lot of the. What I think I enjoyed about this version, more than a lot of other versions, is the set design. I thought the set design was immaculate in this version, And I don't hate the Phantom half mask as much as a lot of other people do. Like the more like full covering mask. I actually think it looks pretty aesthetically interesting. I understand why they go for the other versions. It's like a very symbolic mask in the other versions with the cutoff, the duality of the character. But for this version and this interpretation where he has almost like a more like he's still creepy, but he's more protective of Christine in this one and less possessive, I would say.
Yeah.
Like they kind of like just like fall back on that at the end where it's like, hey, he's got a kidnapper. It's a Phantom adaptation, but
it's like it's more paternal.
Yeah,
In a weird way.
And
funny thing, yeah.
Fun fact for the for the Phantom mask. So traditionally, for a long time, the Phantom did have that full covering mask, and it wasn't until the Lloyd Webber version is what made the half mask the iconic mask, and that's because they had planned to do the full mask, and then when they got into rehearsals realized this is really hard to sing under.
Yeah.
And the mics don't pick up very well, and you lose a lot of diction, and you lose all facial performance from the actor.
Yeah.
But that being said, they had already made the poster design, so that's why the full mask poster that we see is still there. Because they were like, well, we can't reprint all the posters, but we're just going to change the mask.
I can only imagine, in the Schumacher version, if that were to happen, the Andrew Lloyd Webber, it's like...
Andrew Lloyd Webber presents Kabuki Theater.
Yeah.
Anyway, I really enjoyed this movie. It wasn't perfect. It had some tonal snafus here and there that made it feel a bit inconsistent at times, but as Daulton said, the set design is really, really on point. The acting, oh boy, the acting, especially from Claude Rains. And I think what I was most in love with was the cinematography, in spite of a couple of hiccups we'll talk about later, but I love the shot composition. I love some of the Dutch angles that happen in the theater, and I think my personal favorite shot of the bunch is when Claude Rains is playing the violin, and there's a little shadow technique that goes on that splits his face with light and shadow. Good foreshadowing there.
Which, who's to say if that was intentional or not?
Yeah, it could have not been, but it worked out great.
Yeah, it's kind of accidental genius.
Serendipitous,
Who knows if that was intentional or not?
Enough about my cinematography fetish, though. Erin, what did you think of this?
I liked it. Out of all the Phantom adaptations I've seen, which is probably 4 or 5, I'd put this pretty high up there. I've probably seen 4 or 5 Phantom adaptations at this point, including the books, which you can. Russell, what do you think of the books?
It's certainly a book.
It's definitely a book.
It's very much the bones are there, but not executed great.
Yeah.
And I'll confess, too, that this is one of 2 adaptations of Phantom of the Opera that I've seen. It's this, and funny you should mention it, the Andrew Lloyd Webber, Joel Schumacher movie.
That's a lot of people's Phantom experience is either that movie or at least the stage show.
Yeah.
And I've seen both. And I like the cinematography, great cinematography, excellent use of Dutch angles throughout the film.
Oh, yeah.
As we mentioned, Claude Rains' performance is just top notch. Almost snapped there, I don't know why.
Because it deserves a snap.
And he should be in the movie more than he is.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Biggest weakness of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just pointing this here so we could all get the sound in.
Yeah.
He's sort of kind of real absent from like the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
He really was.
And that's when it starts to drag a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
Like, the beginning is actually really good when it's more of like a character piece.
Yeah.
And then they get into the spectacle stuff, and you're like, okay, this is nice, but can we have more Claude Rains,
Yeah.
please?
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie needs more Claude Rains.
Which I think brings me to those little tonal snafus that we mentioned.
Yeah, like the comedy door gags.
Which, under spoilers, but it does come up in pretty pivotal moments.
They did that door gag like 4 times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very much evident of like this is a script that was this version was in production for a really long time and went through a lot of script drafts, and this is sort of like the Frankensteining of a bunch of different versions of this film
Yeah, it's like
put together.
It's like the makers of this film were like, okay, this is a Technicolor era production now. We've gotta
Throw in every color imaginable.
Yeah, we've gotta throw everything but the kitchen sink at this
Christine
script.
has to be in a different colored dress every scene she's in.
Including taffeta.
All right.
If there's any other major gripe I have too with that is like, yeah, it's a very big Frankenstein script. I mean, I've even heard tell of apparently Universal had been planning another Phantom adaptation for years. It wasn't just like in the 40s. I've heard about like a one that never came to be that was made in the 30s that was supposed to be a contemporary Phantom adaptation.
Because they kept being like, man, Lon Chaney's Phantom made us so much more money. Let's do that again.
Yeah, apparently the 30s version that never came to be was supposed to be like a contemporary version of Phantom of the Opera, and it was supposed to be more like psychological in a way, because like the Phantom was a character, but he wasn't going to actually be hideously scarred. He was like a World War I veteran who like went through the traumas of the war and thought it horrifically scarred him.
Yeah.
Which honestly, I wouldn't minded seeing that
Well,
adaptation.
I did say there is a version like that, and it's I forget which specific version it is. I think I can't remember. I don't think it's the Robert Englund version, but there is a version of Phantom where they did that, and it's the worst version like ever made.
Oh, is
Phantom's like weirdly sexy and has like long hair and is friends with rats. I forget what version, but they did do that, and it was bad.
or Willard?
It was bad.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird adaptations. I haven't seen it. Have you guys heard about the Dario Argento Phantom of the Opera adaptation?
I've heard of it.
No.
Yeah, apparently Dario Argento did a Phantom version. I know some of our listeners are probably familiar because this is me. I geek out about Dario Argento a lot. For those unaware, I think Russell might not be. Are you familiar with Dario Argento?
I'm aware of the version you're talking about because I'm a Phantom nerd.
Yeah. So Dario Argento, for those unaware, is like huge Italian horror icon. He's like one of the people think of when they think Italian horror.
Or like Giallo.
Yeah. Well, that's a genre name.
That's a genre name, but a lot of people when they hear Giallo, they think Argento.
Yeah, exactly. But he did like a Phantom version that's like very bloody and gory and very like violent, which I mean it's Argento. That fits. That makes sense, but apparently it's not very good, sadly.
See, hearing Giallo version of Phantom kind of makes me think of I don't know if you'd consider it Giallo, but it's a movie that seems to take some stylistic cues from Phantom of the Opera. It reminds me of this movie called Blood and Black Lace.
Oh, that's
a Giallo
classic. Yeah, that is a Giallo film.
Yeah. Really gory for that time anyway. It was pretty harrowing, that movie. Good movie. A lot of good shots in it, but
It's called Opera. It's just called Opera.
Oh.
Dario Argento's Opera.
Huh. That seems a little
On the nose.
Yeah.
but
Well, Argento loved his one-word titles. It was like him and Fulci.
that and Suspiria. Oh, yep.
Suspiria. Yeah. Phenomena.
Yeah.
Phenomena.
All
the classics.
Or Fulci had Zombie. Just Zombie.
Craig.
That was the
So-
scariest.
So for context of the door gag, the
Two love
The dueling
interests
Raouls.
gets
the dueling Raouls have this running gag where when they exit the same room, they enter, they do so through this. Well, obviously through the same door frame,
and trying to go at the same time,
and they keep getting stuck.
Because it's like a weird love triangle between Raoul and Anatole and Christine, and she's just like, I love the attention, and they're just dumb men.
Yeah. And
you know, morons.
I kind of like
men.
I kind of like that rapport in a weird way, but it does. It's different, and on one hand, it's legitimately funny in places. On the other hand, the gag does overstay its welcome.
Yeah, because it's literally every time they're in a scene together. There was like a guy who was like working on the script who's like, you know what this scene needs, and they're like, Jim, if you say another door, another door.
They're entertaining enough, but it's sort of a one gag shtick of like,
it's always the same gag.
They're just trying to talk it at the same time, or they're trying to do things at the time. Like, they're both competing for her, and they don't really do anything that creative.
It's
like they all say Christine at the same time.
Yeah.
There is a scene where they both just say like probably like 8 lines of dialogue at the same time, and
they've just given up.
It gets to the point where you're like, that would be physically impossible.
Yeah.
It's like the writer of the movie kind of bumped his head and suddenly thought that he was Mel Brooks.
Yeah.
But
Mel Brooks was a child when this came out, probably.
Well,
he's like, you know who's doing gangbusters right now? Them Marx Brothers.
Wait. Mel Brooks, this was World War II era, right?
Yeah, he was in New York, and actually, I think.
No, he would have been in the army at that point.
Oh, yeah, he was in the army at that point.
Yeah,
I was gonna look
He's
up
old as
how
shit.
when Mel Brooks was.
Mel Brooks is 93, I think.
Service in the murder basement.
Oh no, seriously, yeah, the service is not that bad.
Well, my service is.
Wait, it's because I'm on the Wi-Fi. What the fuck is wrong with me?
Tune into the sister podcast. What the fuck is wrong with Richie?
That'll be my talk show spinoff.
Yeah.
Well, there is a podcast called "What the Fuck Is Wrong with You."
It's pretty funny.
Yeah. It is pretty funny.
And for context, Russ, the catchphrase of everyone here is more or less "God damn it, Richie." So.
Anyway, another thing that I wanted to mention.
Taffeta?
Yes, actually, I was going to bring up the taffeta. Taffeta. That's probably the 14th time.
Darling.
It's probably the 14th time I've said that today.
That sounds like a drag queen named Taffeta Darling.
Taffeta Darling. It is a funny.
I like that.
word.
I like
That's
that.
it. That's my drag name. I called it.
Sounds like a divine character.
We have to get it copyrighted before this goes out.
Somebody called John Waters.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Anyway, about the costuming. The men's costuming is very, very on point for the 1880s. The women's costuming is kind of all over the place. Because there are some that was like, okay, this makes sense for like the 1860s, 1870s. The hairstyle is very 1860s. I'll give them a break on the scenes that they do as productions, because they're obviously meant to be productions. But there's a purple dress that is just covered in taffeta.
And also purple, that's kind of like
that's a mourning color.
Well, I was going to say that was still more associated with royalty at the time, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but purple was a color of mourning during that time, because it would go like black, dark green, navy, blue, and then purple. And when a woman's when a woman's husband died, purple would be one of the colors. Could have been a wife. You don't know.
Not in 1880, I don't think.
Not 1880. They were very good friends.
Yes,
they were very good friends.
Yes. It was her lifelong roommate.
No.
And they were roommates.
It's like Sailor Moon. They're cousins.
Yes.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, they very much went like, we're going for what looks good on Technicolor.
Yeah.
Not accurate. Period. All the time.
Yeah, it's like the famous Wizard of Oz thing where like. And for those unaware, I mean, I feel like a lot of people know this, but it's a 50-50 thing. It's not one of those like bits of film trivia everyone knows.
Super common.
Yeah. In the books. Okay. The fan on the laptop's like going crazy right now. But anyway, yeah, there's in the books. In the books, Dorothy's like magical slippers are silver, and they literally. They actually made them silver for the film, and then they were just like, just throw a bunch of red sequins on it, and it'll pop and color look real crazy good.
They weren't wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was the correct move.
It was the correct move, but it's funny now because if you look at the like the preserved slippers, you can see the silver coming in underneath now.
And the interesting thing is that if they went with silver, it would literally look like a disco ball.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
With all those lights going on it would be a disco ball.
It would have been
form.
tough to film too.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the reflection.
With everyone being blinded.
Blinded by a pair of shoes.
Point your feet the other way.
Jeez.
Judy Garland was a treasure.
Rest in peace, Judy Garland.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it makes me think of that story. I know it's a bit of a tangent, but it makes me think of how.
R.I.P. most of the people in that movie.
R.I.P. most of the people, pretty much everybody in this movie.
Like, it makes me think of that story of Terry, the dog who played Toto, and how one of the Winky guards almost killed her by stepping on her. And no joke, she had to be replaced for some of the later scenes of the movie, and Judy Garland had her nursed back to health at her home, and she tried.
Funny.
Yeah, and she tried to adopt the dog, but the owners weren't having it. Because
this is a Hollywood working dog, all right? We put a lot of money into this dog.
you know what the funny thing is?
Put a lot
That's
of money in
basically
this
what
carrot
he.
terrier.
That's basically what he said.
Well, you know what it's like. One of my favorite bits of trivia to any film ever, because like so much stuff in films like will be trained animals because you can't just let an untrained animal on film, like in a film.
Go nuts.
Yeah, like there are some cases where they do that, like
They did that in the movie Prey, the new Predator movie that just came out. Apparently, that was just like a wild dog that they found.
they just trained it. Yeah,
They just like didn't even really train it. It was a dog that they tried to get to do what they could.
yeah.
Terry was bred for movies, though.
Yeah.
Or of course you have the witch where like they're like, oh yeah,
Goat.
Black Phillip was an asshole. That goat sucks.
Yeah.
But my favorite is, I'm sure all of you are familiar with the Nicolas Cage classic Vampire's Kiss. There's a scene where he eats a roach in that movie.
Yep.
And Nicolas Cage actually ate that roach, and like there was a guy on set who just like started freaking out and yelling at Nicolas Cage. That was a trained roach. And I'm just like, and every time I remember that story, I know the story, but I still go, you can train a roach? What?
Roaches are deceptively smart.
And I'm just like picturing some guy being like, Terry, no!
Okay, 1943 is the Phantom of the Opera.
No.
I'll say the story
First
about an
off-
emotional support parrot for later.
First off, Daulton, why? Second, I gotta bring it up because I know this will be the third time I brought it up, but Russell is not familiar, and one movie we covered was the vampire neo-western Near Dark. Very good movie.
Yeah.
The opening shot has a mosquito that lands on a guy's arm only to get crushed. Catherine Bigelow had that mosquito bred, hatched, and put on the set for that shot.
Well, I don't know what to say. I guess sometimes you just gotta breed a mosquito.
I mean, if you're gonna kill,
It's a mosquito.
I was gonna say if you're gonna breed something to die, have it be a mosquito, cause fuck mosquitoes
Yeah.
and fuck Agent Bleakley.
Yeah.
All right then.
Phantom.
1943 is the Phantom of the
1943 is the Phantom of the Opera. I'm sorry, we forgot to tell you, Russell. We do go on a lot of tangents on
That's
here.
okay. I've been here.
I mean, he's adapting. You're clearly adapting.
I mean, I'm a human tangent, so
Yeah.
I've been friends with Daulton long enough.
Yeah.
We've never actually finished one conversation once. Just been one tangent for like 13 years.
Yeah, we've never properly actually introduced ourselves.
Yeah.
I gotta fix your fucking peaks too.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What else was I going to say besides the costuming? Oh yeah, there was something that we were talking about during the film, which was The scenes where the actress playing Christine has lipstick on her teeth.
Yeah, Susanna Foster, who I believe was 19 at the time. There's a funny story where she apparently didn't know how to do like makeup at all as like a person. And Jack Pierce, the very famous special effects like makeup artist, did Karloff's makeup for Frankenstein, like the most famous like old Hollywood makeup guy. He started out doing her makeup for her, even though it wasn't his job, because she didn't know what the fuck she was doing.
Putting like
so
mascara
like
on her lips
he
or
taught
something.
her how to do her own makeup, and he was known for like if he was on the set for other reasons, like coming up to her and like jokingly being like, "What the fuck? Like you didn't put it on right," and like jokingly like scolding her for messing up her makeup. So my thing is like I think the scene where she had lipstick on her teeth, he probably wasn't around for that one.
Yeah. I'm just seeing him watching the stills and going, "You fucking bitch, you bitch."
But yeah, that's probably just me being nitpicky about going. She has lipstick on her teeth. It's very easy to fix that.
Also, in that same scene, that's the scene with the taffeta dress. That is probably the loudest dress in all of movie history. It's like ASMR, the dress.
It's like
But-
ASMR for the eyes.
Yeah.
Well, both,
You can
because
hear
the
it. You can
microphone,
hear it,
every
yeah.
time she moves, the mic in the movie picks up the sound of the dress moving.
Yeah.
Which must have been really loud, because if a shitty 1943 microphone could pick it up, it must have been a loud as fuck dress.
It's like the same thing that happens whenever I put my cover on the
Put your taffeta dress
microphone.
on?
Like, no, like when I put my mic cover.
Demonstrate it.
Don't demonstrate it, we're working here. Don't break the table either, Daulton.
I get emotional.
You're like fucking Tommy Wiseau with the water bottle. Don't demonstrate it,
I'm
Rich.
not nearly lackadaisical enough to be Tommy Wiseau with the water.
I haven't banged my head against the wall enough times to be Tommy Wiseau. 1943 is the Phantom of the Opera. Sorry, Tommy Wiseau.
Okay,
My favorite adaptation.
Fuck you too, Russell. I'm a victim of these tangents, really. Holy shit.
You agreed to do this podcast.
Yeah.
You made your bed.
This is my bit.
You made your bed, no shit in it.
This is my bit. Let me be comically angry for the audience. You know how many screams... You know how many views the scream from Cabaret pulled in?
6?
Exactly.
I just made a guess.
Well, joke.
1943 is The Phantom of the Opera, starring Claude Rains.
Nelson Eddy, Edgar Barrier, and Susanna Foster.
Is a film that we have seen. I'm kidding. But no, it's...
I feel like this is just white people ASMR that you're doing right
Yeah.
now.
Hey, how you doing? That looks good on you. Take another bagel.
And now 45 minutes of the taffeta dress.
So, yeah, no, there's a lot of surprisingly good shot composition for the era.
Like the chandelier.
Mhm.
Oh, and that spiral staircase.
Yeah, no, like, whenever this movie decides, we're gonna do a random action sequence, it's actually pretty good, and it doesn't feel out of place. Like, the action makes sense in the setting of, like, the film. It's not a random sword fight out of nowhere, It's just like, oh, there's a mysterious figure, we gotta chase him. It's not the ending of the Lon Shady version where they're like, you know what this film needs?
A Western ending.
A horse race through town.
That said, since we are approaching stuff that does get more into the meat of the movie, I think now is actually a good time to mark the spoiler section here at 4405 and continue with Daulton's discussions of the meat of the movie.
Yeah. So, probably the thing that I would say makes this film the most different of all adaptations of Phantom is, for one, the Phantom actually has a background with Christine. He's a player in the orchestra in all of the operas, and he gets horribly disfigured by, funny enough, like etching acid, which is I don't know why, but that's like the lamest thing to get disfigured by. Yeah. It's like getting disfigured by like, I was working the cotton candy machine, and then the hot metal of the machine burned my face. It's like,
you know what the worst part of that is?
What?
That would be so on brand for Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and that isn't part of it somehow.
And also, the lady that throws the acid at his face, first of all, absolute savage.
Yeah.
But, like, she throws a whole tray, and it hits him, like, full-on directly across, like, the entirety of the face. And then at the end in the finale, when you see the unmask, it's just, like, maybe, like, a quarter of his face, maybe. But again, that was at Claude Rains' request, we talked about earlier.
I'd say it's a bit unrealistic. And I'm talking from personal experience.
How many times are you going to do the Two-Face voice in one of these episodes?
This is the only time I've done it.
It is not.
Yes, it is.
You've done it before in other episodes.
When have I done that?
You've done that in other Killer Score episodes.
Which one?
Phantom of the Paradise.
Yep.
I guess every Phantom episode.
I guess every other half-faced guy episode.
Anytime where someone's wearing a mask.
Hey, I'm helping us.
Are you?
Yes. Stuff where I do the Two-Face bit tends to attract a lot of traffic as well.
I think the silence is telling there.
Richie, you do a good Two-Face, but like what?
Don't overdo it.
Fair enough. I'm sorry.
No, he's not.
No, he's not.
Okay, so now,
damn it.
Now I want to get into the main plot point that I was talking about earlier. So there is a big thing with this movie that was sort of cut and changed last minute, which I was talking about, is the thing that I put as my headcanon for this film, which makes it a lot better, is originally Claude Rains' character was supposed to be Christine's father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which kind of tracks.
Yeah, and it was supposed to be that, like, he had left, like, Christine and the mother to, like, pursue a career in music. And now, like, that's why he's so interested in her career now, because he's like, she's come to the opera and now he's trying to support her, which makes the movie work a lot more. The movie doesn't really say that. The movie kind of goes like, oh no, he was probably in love with her. She's hot.
It's subtextual.
Yeah.
It's subtextual, and he even says "my child" when he sees her.
Yeah. Like, the dialogue is, I think, like, having that in your head, like, makes things a little better. It also makes the like, finale slightly less creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he does sort of, like, the transition into him being, like, sweet, mild Eric Claudin, and then, like, the portion of the movie where we don't see him for a while, and then at the end where he's just like,
full-on psycho.
I'm full-on crazy now. Yeah.
It's definitely one of those things where that, like, not just because it would be more Claude Rains, but it's another reason there should have been more Claude Rains in the movie.
We up to 10 immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels a little weird and awkward, like the two Raouls.
Yeah, I would also like to have seen more of it, because, again, like, the finale of the movie happens really fast. Like, Christine gets kidnapped, and then, like, the whole Christine getting kidnapped by the Phantom, like, wraps up, like, real quick.
It feels like one of those bits in, like, you know, like a movie where you're like, we're running out of film.
Yeah.
It's like one of those... It also plays into the tonal discrepancies that I had mentioned earlier. And when we mentioned the fact that the door gag comes back at the end, we meant it. Yeah. Like, that's one of the last shots of the movie.
So proud of that door gag.
Yeah, and the development of, like, they go arm in arm at the end, it's like, all right, you didn't earn it.
You did not earn it.
You did not earn that.
You did not earn... This isn't like a buddy comedy. This isn't a Rat Pack. This isn't a Rat Pack movie. You can't just bring these characters to this point. They haven't gotten there.
And the other thing I was going to mention is that we were talking about the end of the movie after we watched this. Russell said she just likes the attention from both guys, from both Raouls.
Yeah, she doesn't seem like she actually likes either of them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she's grinning her ass off at the last shot that she's in, where she's looking back at them like, Oh, those two.
Yeah, because the movie ends where like she's now the prima donna, like star of the opera, and then so like both Raouls come and they're like, "Do you want to go to dinner, Christine?" She's like, "No, I'm going to go to my public," and then they're like, "I guess we just got cucked, so we'll go have dinner together."
Go to dinner together.
Yes.
I mean, that's funny, but
And we couldn't put the Casablanca. They couldn't put the Casablanca line in there.
Yeah, they can't go. Well, this looks like the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
They were like, "Claude Rains just made that movie. We can't say that."
Yeah. That's too soon of a reference.
Yeah, I think Casablanca was shortly before this.
It was
Yeah,
1941.
Yeah. So
yeah, it was in black and
yeah,
white
just a couple
too.
years
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of
great
the
movie.
Yes.
You can't say
really.
Oh, you mean one of the greatest movies of all time ever made? It's a great movie. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say is you can't say black and
Underrated
white because
gem.
there's 50s, 60s, and
Yeah,
even
like-
some 70s movies are in black
Oh,
and white. I mean,
right.
look at
Technicolor was
Eraserhead.
around. It was just fucking expensive. So
You
not
needed
everybody did it.
universal money.
Yeah. You needed that Carl Laemmle Kashish.
Good band name.
I was gonna say that's my new band name, Carl Laemmle Kashish.
That's a really good band name.
It's gotta be one of those electro swing things.
How dare you bring up electric?
Look for
swing in
Daulton.
my presence.
Look for Daulton and I's debut.
What's wrong
album
with that? What's wrong with like Caravan Pals?
Under Carl Laemmle Kashish coming soon to an Applebee's near you.
What else was I what was the other point we were gonna make that we had a note for besides the lipstick?
One moment.
Oh, the singing.
Oh yeah, the overdubbing.
Yeah.
The
So-
overdubbing.
We were asking because I asked, I was like, "Is this overdubbed or not?" And then Russell had an answer.
Yeah, so Susanna Foster, in a documentary that is on, like, if you have the DVD or Blu-ray version, there is, like, documentaries where it interviews Susanna Foster as, like, an old lady. And she talks about how, specifically in the main, Christine only sings, like, in the one main opera performance. She sings a lot, but that's the only, like, big singing she does, is that one. And originally the director and everybody was just like, we're just gonna dub you. Like, you're good, but we don't think you're that good. Especially there's a note at the end, I believe it's a high C, which they were like, we don't, you're not gonna be able to hit that. So like, we're just gonna dub you. And Susanna Foster was like, fuck you, I'm gonna do it. So she like trained really hard. And then so like at the end, like she was like, let me do it. And then if you still don't think it's good, like then you can redo it. So she did it and then made everybody eat their words. So she was like, when you're in the movie, when you hear that high C, that's my high C.
Hell yeah.
So,
Go girl.
speaking of weird talent shared among the cast members, I've looked up a couple of tidbits about this movie, and it turns out that bronze sculpture of Christine was actually done by Nelson Eddy.
Yes, also done by Nelson. Yeah, which is like, I don't know why, but it was. Another.
You could have gotten another guy to do it, make it out plaster to make it cheaper or something.
I feel like it was like, well, we gotta have a thing where there's like a likeness of Christine made, and Nelson Eddy was just like,
I got one.
well, let me tell you something about myself.
Yeah.
That's always cool, though. Like, when the cast members are like, oh, I just so happen to do this. So they throw something like that in
So
there.
you want some other fun Nelson Eddy trivia? So Nelson Eddy at the time was like, he was the big star of this movie. That's why he gets top billing. That's why he sings the most songs. Like, he was the draw for this movie. Nelson Eddy is famously blonde. And he absolutely refused to dye his hair. They were very insistent that he have, like, dark hair in this movie. And he was like, no, I'm not doing it. So Jack Pierce developed a special type of dye that, like, each morning it would be put in Nelson Eddy's hair, and then at the end of the day could be, like, washed out.
Oh wow.
Which, like, didn't exist before then, but it was just like, Nelson Eddy was like, no, I'm blonde, and I'm a blonde, and I'm not changing it.
So wait, they
So it's kinda like hair
invented
chalk?
quick washing dye for that?
Yeah, I don't know if, like invented it, but, like, Jack Pierce, like, developed a thing so that they could do it.
That's crazy. It kind of reminds me of the same attitude Cesar Romero had about his mustache.
Yeah.
Who,
Same energy. Fuck you.
interestingly enough, was considered for this Phantom if the liner notes that I've gathered are no lie.
That would have been fun to see.
Oh,
that was reminding me of when he said this isn't a Rat Pack bit. Now I'm like, well, now I want to see a horror movie with Sammy Davis Jr. in it.
Yeah. Sammy Davis Jr. did do Music of the Night from Phantom. Look that up on YouTube.
Oh, cool.
nice.
It's weird. Because he's like, I'm Sammy Davis Jr.
Well, have you ever heard? I've brought this up on the podcast before, but I don't know if Russell does this. Have you ever heard in Tim Burton's original vision for Beetlejuice, he wanted Sammy Davis Jr.
Yes,
as
I did.
Beetlejuice?
Yeah, I did do that.
I'm a bioexorcist, babe.
I'm just picturing old Sammy Davis Jr., little Sammy Davis Jr. being like, I'm the ghost of the mouse, babe.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, he's got charisma.
he does, but like Michael Keaton was right when he was like, Beetlejuice should be like a sleazy car salesman.
Also,
Oh, yeah.
Sammy Davis Jr. was old as fuck at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Point.
It's like in Blues Brothers when they got Cab Calloway and he was old as shit.
Yeah.
But he still kicks ass.
Oh,
But he still kicks ass.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. How on the nose though would it have been if they did some sort of gag where Beetlejuice's eye pops out though? That would have been
Yeah, that
awful.
would've been
Yeah,
funny.
that would've been it.
It would have been awful
But
though.
in very poor taste.
It would have been like, I don't know if he could say too soon, but
Did he die? Did he die? Was he dead in '89?
yeah, I think so. I think by
When he died.
he was either dead or very very old.
I think Sinatra was the last one, and I think he died in '89.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yeah,
So
probably.
Sammy Davis Jr. was dead already.
You know who else was considered for this Phantom though, Russ? Charles Lawton.
Yes, he was. Which I like Charles Lawton. Don't think he would have done as good a job as
Like,
Claude Rains.
A strong argument could be made that he was one of the best actors who ever lived, but having seen this take on the Phantom in like this direction, I am 100% with you. Claude Rains made that.
Probably the most subdued version.
Yeah, and definitely the most like pitiable version of the
Yeah.
Phantom.
Yeah,
To the point
'cause-
where like
They
he's
call him pitiable
yeah,
in the end.
he's very much like not a bad guy until like his entire like world ends when he gets fired from the opera and he has no money, and like the only thing he has is his music, and then in a moment where he thinks like his music is being stolen, he just fucking snaps and goes crazy.
Yeah.
And then is still just like sort of like
you feel
a,
bad for
a
the guy.
sad man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
can we appreciate Claude Rains' jawline? I mean, come on.
And his hair.
And
Claude
his
Rains'
hair.
hair is so fucking good in this movie.
It's perfect.
Dictionary picture worthy for like the entry for Silver Fox there.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, like when you should get a picture of Claude Rains at the beginning of this movie if you're going for like a 1940s look. When you go to your barber, you just be like, I want this.
Yeah, just Claude Rains.
Yeah.
What else was I going to bring up? We talked about cinematography and the
Costuming.
use of Dutch angles. Costuming we talked about. We brought up. We did not bring up the music that was used. Well, we did in the intro,
Yeah.
talking about how a lot of it's public domain music that they just put lyrics over. Because there's one point during an opera scene where I'm just like, that's Chopin's Nocturne Opus 9 number 2.
Yeah, like they just took public domain classical music and put opera words to it.
Which
And
elegant
Franz
was-
Liszt
smart.
is the character.
Yeah, Franz Liszt is here for some reason.
Franz Liszt is here for some goddamn reason.
They were just like, who was a historical pianist at the time in the area? Franz Liszt. He should be in the film.
And my God, do they get a guy who looks exactly like fucking Franz Liszt? That man looks like every portrait of Franz Liszt ever made.
If you've been in a music classroom, you've seen what this man looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm here to remind you Listomania was a thing going on at the time.
Yeah.
Yes. And not the Phoenix song, even though this is probably the second or third time we mentioned Phoenix on this podcast.
We have a lot of running gags.
I think the justification for Franz Liszt being in the movie is Franz Liszt like gets played Claude's concerto and he's like, this is fucking good, they gotta publish it. So I feel like they put him in there being like, Franz Liszt says music is good, so you know this is good
It's
shit.
good music. Because we got a guy pretending to be Franz Liszt to say it's good.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, I'm surprised they didn't go with some. Like, actually, I can understand why they wouldn't go with some really, really well-known pieces for this. For what they put the music over. Like, obviously they put Chopin's Biggest Nocturne. But Chopin is not, like, he's not, like, as well-known as, say, like, Mozart.
Yeah, you don't want someone being like, that's just in the Hall of the Mountain King, and you put lyrics over it.
This is a night on Bald Mountain. What the hell is this doing here?
Yeah, they were very much like we don't want to detract attention from it. Also, important to note that this movie was nominated for 3 Oscars, including like best sound score for musical.
Rightfully so.
Didn't win. The guy Edward
Ward,
our composer, was apparently, I looked him up. He had 7 nominations throughout his lifetime and never quite pulled it off.
Ow, that hurts me.
That hurts.
Ouch. Just ouch.
Yeah.
Nothing more to add.
Yeah.
Christ.
But we can have like Hans Zimmer. But we can have like Hans Zimmer win an Oscar,
Here we go.
despite turning in the same score every year.
Daulton Rant.
Look, I'm sorry, Hans Zimmer did Inception, and then he was like, oh, the people like Inception, I guess.
That's sort of what happens with a lot of composers, is like they get to a point where after they're so well known, their stuff just sounds the same. Like
Case in point,
James Newton Howard.
like
sometimes Danny Elfman.
yeah, sometimes Danny Elfman. Even as much as I love him, like John Williams has gotten to a point where he just sounds like he's doing John Williams.
Yeah, I feel like people rag on Danny Elfman way too much, though. Like, everyone's like, every Danny Elfman score sounds the same. And I'm like, no? No?
Really.
Look, give me a straight face and tell me Beetlejuice sounds exactly like Batman. Like,
No.
Yeah.
No.
I'm of the opinion that while no 2 Danny Elfman scores really sound the same, there are levels of energy and quality of them that is noticeable. Like, compare
his earlier stuff, obviously, he's got more.
Yeah, compare that to his Alice in Wonderland score, which is just sort of there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it also depends on, like, first of all, even like the most brilliant of people only have so many ideas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And also, like, you're not going to be super into every single project you do. Especially when, like, with the case of, like, Alice in Wonderland, where, like, this is, like, the 4,000th time your friend Tim Burton has been like, I'm doing a fucking movie, make noise for it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, Tim, but you're not even doing it, like, when Tim Burton's not doing anything that super interesting with the movie, it's hard to then care
like
about
Tim
doing
Burton for the last 20 years.
Yeah, it's hard to then, like, get more into it. And not saying that, like, Danny Elfman doesn't put effort into his work, but, like, you're obviously going to be more excited about some projects than other. And sometimes it's just, like, when you're a working professional, sometimes, like, you just have to turn it. It's a job. You got to turn in what you have.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily always have the time or the effort or even sometimes the care to, like, create your magnum opus masterpiece.
Yeah, because the thing I was going to say about Hans Zimmer is that, like, he has some good scores, but not anything past... I don't want to say anything past Inception. Yeah. But, for example, like, I love the score of the Sherlock Holmes movie.
Yes.
Because it just sounds like... It sounds almost grimy in its sound. Yeah. Because it's, like, broken pub pianos and squeaky violins and all that kind of thing. And the pirate score, of course, everyone knows he's a pirate.
Yeah. And I've said before, it's, like, I will die on this grave. It's not as good. His Blade Runner 2049 score is great. It's no Vangelis Blade Runner score, though. Like, that original score is so iconic. I mean, like, when I think of film scores that, like, haunt my dreams and, like, I can't stop thinking about, I think about Blade Runner. But,
That's synth.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is where I get to be a music geek. You see, the reason Blade Runner sounds so unique is it was the Yamaha, I know the exact synth. The Yamaha CS80, and the reason I know this synth is because very few synths have been made like the Yamaha CS80, because it's a polyphonic synth. For those unaware of what that even means, it means you can press one key, but you can press it in so many different ways that it'll sound different when you press it.
And the thing with synths today is that many synths try to mimic that with trying to sorry, I'm tapping on a table. Try to mimic that by having a slightly different tone when you hit a key with a different amount of pressure, but it's not the same.
It's not the same as analog.
It's not the same as analog. Because, for example, I have a MIDI keyboard. I have a digital piano at home. And there's certain settings that if you tweak around with it, it can make a slightly different sound or be a bit sharper or have like a different tone to it or a different timbre, but it's not the same as a pure polyphonic analog synthesizer.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that that's like one of the peaks of synthesizers. That's like it tracks for something used in a Blade Runner, but goddamn.
Yeah, it's become one of the most valuable and rare, like, just like instruments and like music production, like pieces out there because they just literally. This
They
isn't
only
even.
need so much.
Yeah, and it's not even me being like, like the typical. They don't do things like that. They literally don't do
They haven't
things like
figured out
that.
how to make the same thing.
Yeah, it's iconic, and they know how to do it, but they just don't want to at the same time. It's like that's expensive.
Yeah, it's like trying to rebuild a Stradivarius. It's like it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the point is, it's music production is weird and difficult, and like I think one of the only like composers I can think of that like really mixes it up a lot to the point that you'd be like, oh, he did that too, is like Trent Reznor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think that the trouble is with a lot of these composers when you become like a big name, like well enough that like the average person knows Hans Zimmer or Danny Elfman, you then have the trouble of like when you're trying to get
They want to hear that score.
yeah, when you're trying to get new jobs, the studio is like, we loved your work on Inception, do Inception again.
Yeah.
And like you don't, it's sort of like the thing of like the bigger you get, the more pigeonholed you end up being, and that's why like.
And speaking of Inception, the score, that big score that you hear in Inception all the time, is a very, very slowed down, and basically they turn the bass all the way up on Je ne regrette rien by Edith Piaf, and that's what that blaring trumpet noise is that you don't realize is a trumpet. Yeah, they just took, like, this old French pop song and then just slowed it down, made it really loud, and turned the bass way up in order to get that sound.
That's news to me.
Yeah, it's like that little bit everyone knows of how like the old Godzilla, the original Godzilla roars a violin.
Yeah. A bass violin.
Yeah.
To be
You mean
specific.
bass violin? You mean a double bass?
Double bass. Duh.
It's literally like running a rubber glove across a violin,
Or how like the TIE Fighter screeches a baby elephant.
That I actually did not
I
know.
actually didn't know that.
Yeah, I think it's baby elephant, like stretched out. Like it's done something to it, but it's I believe it's a baby elephant screech.
Yeah, and the lightsabers are literally just like sheet metal that you just like shake it.
Blaster bolts are literally a guy tapping on like a high tension wire.
Oh.
And the TARDIS warp sound is literally running a set of car keys across a piano wire.
Yeah.
And Darth Vader's breathing is the inside of a respirator.
They snuck into a hospital and found a dying guy. Just filmed it.
Yeah.
They just recorded.
Just put a microphone right next to this guy on a respirator.
It's actually just James Earl Jones' voice. He's got a real problem.
Oh god. This is gonna hit different in a couple of years, or I hope not. I hope not a couple of years, but you get me. Holy shit.
James Earl Jones is old, Richie. It's gonna be.
I know.
In his 90s.
I know, but still, he's a legend. Can you blame me?
James Earl Jones, more like James Old Jones. Am I right?
I'm just remembering when people thought Betty White was gonna live to be 100 and she died like 3 days before her 100th birthday.
That's because Betty White was like, "Fuck you! I'm not gonna do it."
And
do
there
what I
were
want.
magazines saying "Happy Birthday, Betty White"
Yeah, they
100,
had- yeah.
and they got printed, and then
They
she
print- yeah,
died.
they printed.
Yeah.
They did a whole TV show that was like Betty White's 100th birthday special.
The
And then she fucking died. They're like, I guess we'll still air it.
The universe has a sick sense of humor.
It does.
Yeah.
But I think we're out of spoilers now that we've covered.
Unless there's any other spoiler stuff you want to
No, because like the thing is like, my next point that I want to talk about again, for like specifically the score of this movie, is it does a really great job of
timing.
timing
yes.
actions
Yes.
in the film
to the score. Yeah.
like even to the point of like it's not just like the film scoring, it's even like when opera sequences are going on stage and then it cuts to like somebody else doing something elsewhere, like Raoul's first introduction, like when he like parts a curtain, is very much on like with like a burn of in the song. It was just like the intention to like action to music was like very impressive and something you don't often see, especially in that old of a movie.
Oh, yeah.
You don't see things intentionally, because a lot of times they were just like, we do the film score like afterwards and we pay a guy and he just does it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because as I mentioned in the preceding, whatever you want to call
Proceeding. Yeah.
it, how Edgar Wright uses music a lot in rhythm with how scenes are shot, cut, and edited.
Yeah, I mean, they literally had to like play Queen's "Don't Stop Me Now" on set for the famous scene towards the end of Shaun of the Dead, so people could get the timing down right.
yeah, and I guess like
choreography.
Yeah.
I have to imagine that like when stuff was going on stage, they were probably filming things at the same time, so like the actors did have like the actual like singing and orchestra that was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And they probably just had to cue things too.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And I can't imagine what editing for that whole thing would be like at that era. Just timing everything.
Timing everything, and also you have to take into account the term "cutting room floor" is literally a film.
Yeah.
It is a film term, a literal film term, because I had to use razors to cut it frame by frame.
Yeah, like, I never thought I'd say this, but I don't think I'm going to be complaining about my own process anytime soon.
No.
It's literally for those of you who have seen it, because I know since I showed them for little in-person movie club thing we do. I showed our friends American Movie, the famous documentary.
Yeah.
And there's literally a scene where like Mark Borchardt is like panicking in the editing room because he's like, we're missing a frame.
They were missing like one piece that was like 4 frames.
Yeah, and he's like explaining to the camera crew like how big of a deal that is. Yeah. He's like, you know how big of a cut that is? Yeah. And yeah, like that's how you had to edit film back then.
Yeah, and the thing is like when you're running like a 35mm film, 4 frames is probably about 5 inches long?
Yeah.
Which is very easy to get lost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For something that small. But but it's one of those things that's like even something that small can make or break a film.
Mm-hmm.
Especially back then when you're running things on literal film instead of hard drives.
Even in this film, like in 1943, like the chances that the director, whose name escapes me at this moment, was really that involved in the editing process was probably not minimal. Like back in the day, like you filmed the movie and when it was done, like you fucked off. Like
and
then the editing was done by like a bunch of dudes in the Universal lot.
And then maybe you saw the movie.
Yeah, and then maybe you like saw progress screenings and gave notes, but you were not like heavily involved. If you cared, a lot of them were just like, I made a movie, I got paid, I don't care how it comes out.
Director's name is Arthur Lubin, by the way.
Yeah.
Arthur Lubin.
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny because like that's just how film was made back then. Like it was different in like some foreign markets. Like famously, the reason like Akira Kurosawa is such a good director is because he was always under the belief like, hey, if you want to make a really good movie, you have to know every part of the film production. So he literally would be like, okay, before I directed, I made sure to do a little bit of basically every kind of work you can do on a film, just so I could like compose and put together everything perfectly. Like, Kurosawa even edited some of his own films or heavily supervised the editing process because he knew just how important editing could be. And he was like, no, I want this shot the way I want it.
There's a reason he was basically an elder statesman among directors. Like, big inspiration for, God, so many.
Countless directors.
Brian De Palma, Martin Scorsese.
We literally could probably fill about 10 minutes of this podcast just listing the people influenced by Kurosawa.
Yeah.
And we're going to do that now. No.
I brought a list.
But, good pick, Russell.
Yeah,
Seriously.
one last thing that I want to focus on is, for music specifically, is like this movie's main theme, called "The Lullaby of the Bells," which goes through so many variations throughout the movie. You know, you have like the big introductory orchestral version when we open the movie. You then get
with the famous dueling trumpets. With
the dueling trumpets. You get the Claudin plays it solo on the violin. You get several different piano versions. You get a version where Christine and Anatole sing it, and it has lyrics because it's also because it's supposed to be the Phantom's music, and it's based on a lullaby from the town where they were both supposed to have come from.
Yeah, it was
and then the finale, you get it where like for whatever reason their final plan is like, we get Franz Liszt to play his concerto on the stage of the opera. That's how we'll catch him. So the climax is
he just can't help but play his piano.
The climax is like
it's a weird climax.
The Phantom has somehow gotten a piano down into the sewers and like plays along with the music on the opera and like makes Christine sing. So you get so many variations of this like just beautiful piece of music.
It's brought down via horse and buggy, please.
Yeah,
of course we know that.
Yeah, to tie it back
probably in pieces.
Yeah, tie it back into Phantom of the Paradise. It's like how we get so many
versions of Faust.
Yeah, how we get so many versions of the song Faust throughout the film.
Well, yeah, Faust is in the original novel. Faust is the opera they are putting on.
Yeah.
At the time.
That's true.
And like
because Christine was going to be playing Marguerite.
Yeah, and like Carlotta is Marguerite, and Phantom's like, she sucks. They couldn't do Faust in this one because they couldn't get the rights to Faust. That was trivia that I saw. Like they were like,
"Oh, Faust is an actual opera."
Yes, yeah, Faust is an opera.
I've only ever heard of like the Fable.
Yeah, well, there's the Fable. There's the famous like version by Goethe, which is like the epic poem version. Then there's a very famous opera.
A play, and then there's the opera and film versions and all that.
So a lot of versions of Phantom incorporate Faust because that's in the original novel, the book they're doing. They couldn't do Faust in this version because they like couldn't secure the rights to Faust because of the war.
Yeah, and I don't even think there was a Faust. I don't even think they did Faust in the Weber version, did they?
No, they don't. The version they do in the opera they're doing in the Lloyd Webber version is Il Muto, which is and Hannibal, which is a made up.
They're all made up.
Yeah, they're both made up operas.
Yeah.
That was close.
How about the monkey though?
Yeah, the monkey.
The monkey.
I have my theories on the monkey, but that's for another podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah,
join us on our new podcast, The Monkey Theories.
Yeah, monkey theories.
Monkey theories. I think we went over just about everything for this episode, and we're already at almost an hour and 20 minutes, so...
We're almost at the length of the film.
Yeah.
We're almost at the length of the film, so I guess we can probably wrap this up.
Yep. Phantom of the Opera, 1943. Good movie. Hell of a guest subject there. And thank you, Russ, for joining us. Yeah. I'm certain this will not be the last appearance we have.
Well, thank you for having me. But this will be the last appearance I'll ever have because I'm going into seclusion under an opera house after this, and I won't be seen again. You'll only hear me. You'll never see me again.
Fair enough.
We'll be hiding out in the murder basement.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll actually have to relocate. Russell's holding a knife right now. He's telling us we can't have this space anymore.
Oh God, put that down!
Yeah, you know, so Hero Killer Score, assuming these two survive. Russell's kind of just waving me off, telling me to leave right now. I'm blacking away slowly. If
Blocking away?
That's why he's walking away while trying to black out.
yeah, tie it all back to the beginning where I messed up. Yeah,
The title of your own show.
woo! I'm a professional. Yeah, join us if we survive next time for John Woo's final Hong Kong action film before he went over to Hollywood and then said, "Oh wait, Hollywood sucks. I'm going back to Hong Kong again."
The Phantom of Haya.
Yeah. I am, of course, talking about the excellent Chow Yun-Fat action film Hard Boiled, our first action film we're ever going to cover on the podcast, and a great jazzy score that I cannot wait to talk about. So, yeah, join us next time for my episode, Hard Boiled.